Hey there. Welcome to CyberPulse by Quantum Shield, the podcast where we make cybersecurity less intimidating and a lot more exciting. Every episode, we're diving into the latest digital drama, from sneaky hackers to the coolest defense strategies, all while sharing tips you can actually use. So grab a coffee, get comfy, and let's navigate this crazy digital world together.
Ever get that feeling?
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you ask someone to, water your plants while you're out of town, and you're kind of holding your breath, hoping they don't drown them or something.
Right.
That's third-party risk management.
Yeah.
Except instead of your CERNs, we're talking about your business, your data,
Yeah.
your reputation, the stakes.
Yeah.
A tad higher than a wilted ficus.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's not just about keeping the metaphorical plants alive anymore. This deep dive, it looks like we're going beyond just defining TPRM. We're diving into building a program around it, which is huge.
Exactly. We've got your notes here, and you're really trying to get a handle on how to actually use these frameworks. But first things first.
Yeah.
We got to decode this whole thing. Because I'm seeing ISO 27036, NIST SP 800-161, shared assessments. Did your eyes glaze over reading those? Because mine kind of did.
Yeah, it's alphabet soup. It's easy to get lost. But at its core, third-party risk management, it's about recognizing that every time you bring in another company, another vendor, another link in that chain, you're inheriting their risk too.
It's like a big old game of hot potato, but with, legal contracts and data breaches.
Exactly. And the stakes have gotten so much higher, right? One misstep, one oversight, it can be a PR nightmare, regulatory fines.
Oh, yeah. You see it all the time.
All the time. And that's why it's not a check-the-box exercise anymore. It's got to be a core part of how you do business.
So let's break down these frameworks then.
Okay.
Starting with, how do you even say this one?
So ISO 27036, this one's think of it like your wide-angle lens.
Okay.
It's broad, it's comprehensive, it's all about information security, compliance, really looking at the whole picture.
Gotcha. So big picture stuff. But is that, the right fit for every business?
That's the thing. It can be a bit much, especially if you're a smaller organization.
Right. You don't need the whole, ISO shebang if you're just, selling hand-knitted scarves on Etsy.
Exactly. Now, if you're dealing with, let's say, government contracts or highly sensitive data.
Okay. More serious stuff.
Then you're looking at NIST SP 800-161. That's our zoom lens. Really honed in on cybersecurity, especially if you're handling what's called controlled unclassified information.
Right. So if ISO's the big picture, NIST is for the
nitty-gritty.
The nitty-gritty, exactly. So where does shared assessments fit into all of this?
Shared assessments is more like, imagine a bunch of experts got together and said, okay, how do we actually measure and manage this risk? And they came up with a standardized checklist.
Practical. I like it.
Yeah, and it gives you that common language, best practices, helps you benchmark, so you know you're at least meeting industry standards.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say we've looked through all these different lenses, right? We've picked our framework or maybe even combined a few.
Sure.
Now, how do we actually build a TPRM program around it? Where do we even start?
Foundation. You have to know what you're building on. And that starts with understanding your own risk appetite.
Ooh, risk appetite. Sounds dangerous.
It's about being honest. How much risk can your organization handle? What are you willing to stomach? And what keeps you up at night?
Okay, so really understanding what matters most to your business and what you absolutely cannot afford to lose.
Exactly. And once you know your own limits, you can prioritize. Because let's be real, not all vendors are created equal when it comes to risk.
Right, some are definitely riskier than others.
Absolutely. So you focus on those critical vendors, the ones that if something went wrong, it could really disrupt your business.
Your mission-critical vendors. Got it.
Exactly. And for those, you don't just do a quick Google search and call it a day. This is where due diligence comes in.
Due diligence. Sounds like homework. The not-so-fun kind.
It can be tedious, but it's crucial. You're digging deep. You're looking at their security practices, their financials, their track record.
So we're talking cybersecurity audits, financial statements, legal history.
All of that. And don't be afraid to get creative. There are tools like Security Scorecard that give you these ratings, early warning signs. You can even just do a quick search for litigation history, see what's come up in the past.
It's like a background check, but for your vendors. Smart.
Because here's the thing. A lot of companies, they rush this part. They don't want to put in the time, the resources, But that's where the trouble starts.
Yeah, that's where you get blindsided.
Yeah.
But even with the most thorough due diligence, it's not a one-and-done thing, right? Our notes here mention continuous monitoring.
Right. Because things change. A vendor that was squeaky clean a year ago could be bought by another company, have a security breach, who knows? You have to stay vigilant.
So it's about keeping tabs on your vendors even after you've brought them on board.
Exactly. Think of it like you wouldn't invite someone to live in your house and then never check on them again. You'd at least want to make sure they weren't, building a bonfire in the living room.
Or running a side hustle that compromises your...
Exactly. And that's where technology comes in. Those VRM platforms we talked about, RiskRecon, BitSight, Prevalent. Think of them as your security cameras for your vendors.
Okay. I like this. So they're constantly scanning for red flags, anything that looks fishy.
Exactly. They use all this data, threat intelligence, to give you that real-time view of your vendor ecosystem. Like if a vendor's involved in a data breach that you haven't even heard about yet.
So you can get out ahead of it. That's huge.
It's about being proactive, not reactive. Because by the time you hear about a problem through the news, or even worse, a lawsuit,
it's way too late.
Way too late.
This has been eye-opening, so much to consider.
It's a lot. But honestly, a strong TPRM program, it's not just about avoiding disaster. It's about building trust.
Trust with your vendors.
And with your customers. Because when they see you're serious about protecting their data, their privacy, that builds confidence.
It's a competitive advantage even.
Absolutely.
This has been amazing. So if someone's listening to this, feeling maybe a little overwhelmed, but ready to tackle TPRM, what's your one piece of advice to get them started?
I always say, start with what keeps you up at night. What's the worst case scenario that a third party could cause?
The fear factor.
It's a great motivator. Figure out your biggest vulnerabilities, those critical vendors, and go from there.
Love it. A healthy dose of paranoia could be a good thing.
In this case, absolutely.
Well, on that note, thanks to everyone for joining us on this deep dive. Third-party risk management, it's complex, it's ever-changing, but with the right approach, it's manageable.
Absolutely. And it's only becoming more important.
Couldn't agree more. Until next time.
Thanks for hanging out with us on CyberPulse. Remember, cybersecurity doesn't have to be scary. It's all about staying sharp and a little bit savvy. Keep learning, stay curious, and don't let those cyber gremlins get you down. Catch you next time, and until then, stay safe, stay smart, and keep crushing it online.